Hello and welcome to another Captain's Table. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender here at the AstroPub, your space bar at the end of Twitch. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We got a good one for you. I realized that N1ghtCOB recentered himself, so now I've got to.
Sorry, my bad.
You're good. It's my bad. Thank you so much for hanging out with us here today. This is a podcast where we talk about Star Citizen. I bring people from all over the Star Citizen universe to discuss different topics of Star Citizen. Sometimes it's news, sometimes it's theory, sometimes it's stuff like this, which is just kind of like looking at something and seeing if it's good or not. But to get started, let's start off with Selene. Selene, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
I'm Admiral Selene Stardragon, leader of the Nebula Roses, and I do a little bit of everything. I want to work into, talking about, fleet formations, and I like flying bigger ships and stuff. Mm-hmm. And understanding the roles of ships. I'm just a sci-fi fan.
Awesome. And where can they find you?
Somewhere around here on Twitch.
It's Selene Stardragon, right? All one
yep,
word?
All one word. Selene Stardragon.
All right. And then we have N1ghtCOB. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
Oh, I'm the least esteemed of the three people that you guys see on the screen.
You take that back.
No, well, no, I mean, in terms of content creation, totally true. But you can find me doing podcasts here, talking nerd stuff with Paul on occasion when he is foolish enough to let me back on the show, as well as when Tree0311 is foolish enough to let me on his Armchair Admirals and Generals podcast when we talk about Star Citizen and how it relates to our respective military professions and all that kind of stuff. And every once in a while, I used to stream on Twitch, but I'm kind of at this point now where I really want a streaming PC to kind of support the two ridiculous games I like to stream, which is DCS and Star Citizen, both of which are unoptimized and very taxing on my mid to slightly upper range GPU. So one day, when I get a streaming PC, I'll transition into doing that more often again.
Awesome. All right. So, sorry, kind of doing some live fixing here. So the topic for today, as you can see from the title, if you've been watching, especially after the fact, is the flawed game events. So like the flaws of game events. To kind of remind folks who don't know, there are 4 major events that CIG has created. They are Xenothreat, Jumptown, which used to be called the Ninetales Lockdown and is now called I think it's called Blockade Runner. It's something it's completely been destroyed and then rebuilt. And then the last one, the most recent one, is called Siege of Orison, which is currently active as of the recording of this video. So this was inspired by, tis the season for CIG to start throwing out more of these events. And I decided to play a little bit of Siege of Orison, and I have thoughts. And I know that a lot of folks in the community also have thoughts because there's been some debate over a lot of the events themselves. So why don't we just jump into it and talk about what are the problems with the events as they currently stand? N1ghtCOB, we'll get you start with that one.
I'd say problem number 1, they're too handcrafted as they stand right now. Specifically with things like Siege of Orison is probably the prime example of that. It's only good for one place, one specific location at a given time, and it's just structured for that one place and that one instance. So it seems like it would be something that you could apply to other locations, but when you really boil down to the fact that it's very specific to a given set of platforms and a given, static environment, it doesn't look like it can be applied that way. And then, of course, you've got some other problems with the other major events. The most obvious, besides being that one, is the game doesn't handle it well in its current state. The moment everybody starts going to that event, even if we were all stay right there, before long, the servers are bogged down and the event quality is severely diminished. That's the Those are probably the two biggest negatives. I don't want to take them all. We could talk a long time for negatives.
We probably are going to talk a lot about it for negatives because I think we're going to try to bounce back.
They can never seem to get the lieutenants to not phase into structures.
Yeah. That's like bugs. Selene, any other negatives you want to talk about? What are some of the problems that we have with current events?
This is just a me thing, but having them loop repeatedly kind of feels like it cheapens them.
Yeah, she's not wrong.
So
Thank you. I've actually been looking for a way to put that. We're going to have
Siege of Orison. Okay, we complete the event, and then 15 minutes later, it starts up again. Like, what? Why were we even here?
Yeah, I was going to say CIG. I mean, from the very get-go, Chris Roberts talked about how he didn't like how MMOs, modern MMOs, really kind of give you this kill 50 boars situation, and you don't feel like you have any impact on the game. And so he wanted Star Citizen players to have more impact. And then events feel like you have no impact. It feels just like, okay, here's a cool set piece. Enjoy it for the 3 days we run it, and then turn it off. So
that is the biggest thing. And it's just everyone just ends up doing it, and it's just I don't feel like setting up an entire military operation to hold a drug facility for 2 hours and barely make back anything worth my time. Or, oh, it's already been running for 30 minutes. I'm never going to catch up with the main crew, so why even bother joining a siege? Or, Xenothreat. Look, you never know what's going to happen with that. You never know what's going to happen with that.
I would.
The last time we saw it was destroying servers. So
yeah.
I will say, despite the fact that it was indeed destroying servers, if I had to pick an event with the best structure, again, it still suffers that same, and you put it so succinctly, the replayability cheapening the event. If I had to pick a structure of an event that it's easier to jump into / roll into a group, assuming the server's handling it well, get involved in, where you don't feel like you're going to necessarily miss a lot, depending on where you jump in, because all of the different pieces of the puzzle work so well on how it kind of bounces back and forth. Hey, you got to pull boxes, but at the same time, you got to defend Jericho Station. So you might fly to Jericho in the middle of an attack, or you keep going and go help with boxes, or you bounce back and forth. There's just like, you're not missing out by jumping in just about at any point in time.
There was one Xenothreat. Me and a couple friends were on a Retaliator. We were late getting to the event. I saw another ship pull up to a wreck, and I saw they were jumping out and going in. So I pulled the Retaliator around to block where they were, so NPCs couldn't get to their little cargo ship. And so even though I was late, I had an impact on the event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I will say Xenothreat has the potential probably to be the most important, or not the most important, the most likely event. I think my favorite event type going forward. I think it still suffers from the handcrafted nature. We're like, it won't work.
The sort of multi-stage, multi-theater sort of that.
Yeah. The multi-stage, multi-theater meme. The multi-stage, multi-theater sort of where you can just jump in at any time and you're helping out. There's always something going on in the event. It relies on techniques and skills that players learn. Like I learned how to do tractor beams from playing Xenothreat. Like it teaches you how to be a good tractor beam operator. It also teaches you a lot about cargo, volatile cargo. It teaches you a lot about flying. Like it legitimately teaches players how to play the game in an often better way than CIG's own tutorials do, because it gives you that sort of opening, and it also, because it encourages players to come together. I've taught more players how to use tractor beams and everything else by just running into them in Xenothreat events than I have anywhere else. So So
This might be
good.
a weird take, but the best event is Ghost Hollow.
Yes,
Ooh,
we're
gonna get into those. I know.
Yeah, let's talk about this a little bit too, because we just talked about like events, right? And we're talking about events. It's important to note that I listed out 4 events, and I will say one of the biggest problems with events comes down to, as y'all pointed out, they're too like handcrafted. They're too bespoke, for the Legion. Yeah. They're too limited, and they just don't function with the things, and they lose a lot of meaning. And I know CIG wants people to play the game, so they want them to play these events. That's why they loop them all the time, because they want players to, like, okay, because players will complain that, like, well, I work such and such hours, and I want to be able to hop on and play the game. And I think the honest to God answer is, I think CIG's approach to events is wrong. Like, that's probably the biggest problem, is that events shouldn't be something that are, it's going to sound kind of like an oxymoron. They shouldn't be events. They shouldn't be set pieces. They should be things that happen in the game as a consequence of you playing it. And I think the perfect example of that are the heist missions at Korea and Ghost Hollow. They're basically the same idea, but in miniature. So
I'll offer another one for you, Paul. And I think they underestimated what they built when they did this very recently. That F8C lightning challenge that they did as an event. There's so much opportunity. They just built a mechanic that they really need to take advantage of. I've got a great idea for CIG for an event, by the way, or at least a spin on similar events like Ghost Hollow. One, what they did with that F8C lightning, because it makes sense, right? You had a CIG dev come in with a platinum ticket on them, and it's like a god marker, and everybody had to chase them around, get that platinum ticket. And the moment you had the platinum ticket, you had a target on your back. In a way, that's an event, and it's dynamic.
The trick with that would be making the prize worth it, because I wouldn't want. I don't think a lot of the player base wants the F8 to come back in that sort of situation.
Yeah.
Well, I'll go ahead and share the idea for you real quick, because I think similar to Ghost Hollow, right? You take a combo ray down, you basically open it up a revenue stream. If you can hold the Ghost Hollow. One of the problems they've had for the last couple patches was bounties. Bounties have incredible amounts of loot on them. You take down an ERT bounty that's a 890 jump full of like gasping weevil eggs. It's worth like 32 mil. Well, the problem is, assuming you don't have any PvPers hanging around the 1 of 4 scrapyards or crew L4 that you happen to jump to, that cargo is pretty much free and yours. Now, they've obviously built a mechanic where they can tag a certain item. In the case of the F8 Lightning ones, they could have tagged the platinum tickets. Man, imagine if they tagged one of those cargo containers with let's not call it a god marker in the sense that it was for that, but I mean, they can limit it to like a bounty marker, where imagine a bounty marker that shows up on the criminal side. So if you're a criminal, you got a crime stat 3 or more. Now you got an active bounty on your head from whatever criminal organization you just stole from, in terms of their really high dollar drugs. And now you've got AI and you got other players coming after you to recover that really high dollar cargo that you just stole from an ERT. That would make sense to me. And then that's dynamic too. Yeah. If nobody's doing the ERT bounties, you don't see them that often. And if you have somebody, and maybe there's a certain value associated with it. Maybe if it has to be like a 32 SCU container of gasping weevil eggs or maize or something like that, something that's really worth a lot of money, even just by itself. And then consequently, now you've got a target on your back, and that's kind of what I would expect. That actually makes sense from like a gameplay perspective. If I killed a bunch of criminals with a bunch of incredibly valuable drugs, I do not think they'd let me get away with it. I imagine I'd have bounty hunters, ne'er-do-wells coming after me, scoping out. And that way it also solves like, okay, that either generates PvP or it generates more PvE, depending on, how they program it. At the very least, I think you could have a bunch of PvPers like, well, I'll take them down. I'll take that cargo back.
And it also is very cinematic. I mean, how many stories have I mean, it's like it's almost like, and it's not directly, but it's very similar to like the plot of the Warriors, and there's so many other like kind of cases where like where you have a story about somebody stealing something valuable from the mob, and now suddenly the mob and a bunch of like the feds and a bunch of other people are out to get this one person, and they have to survive. Like that's the whole story, and that's what Star Citizen's really about, is that kind of cinematic experience in a video game, and that would work, especially with factions, when those kind of come out. But yeah, so yeah, I like that idea. But let's talk a little bit about go ahead, Selene.
Tying into that, someone in Twitch chat, Captain Fishstick, said PvP is great, but some that wouldn't like a PvE event. So imagine you're doing lawful things, and you recover some sort of black box that could tell where a major stronghold was.
Mm-hmm.
And when they start trying to decode it, it sends out a decoder signal. So suddenly it would be like the pirate blockade or the Nine Tails lockdown. So where people would have to come in and defend the station to allow this thing to finish decoding.
And have PvP, you'd have like waves upon waves. It's more of a defend mission. Like you're defending Korea from waves upon waves of AI. Yep. I like that idea,
Kind of like the Pirate Swarm, but in the PO.
Yeah.
But with a trigger through certain mission chains.
Yeah, I can see that. And that's I mean, like, we know, I'll kind of explain as well, just so people know, like the original pitch for events was that events were going to trigger via consequences. So like you do something in the verse, and eventually it builds up enough, and then you get Siege of Orison, or you get the Xeno threat. Like there were supposed to be things that trigger into it. Now,
you're talking about the infamous Tony Z brief, right?
Yes.
2020.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about. I watched that a few times.
The problem is,
where are we at with that now?
Well,
wait, we're still in the negative, right? We're still in the negative, right?
Yeah. But I mean, we are still in the negative. The problem is that entire system is on hold. The dynamic economy and in quantum, the quantum system, the quanta system, is on hold until everything else catches up, and that kind of stuff. So, the honest to God answer is like, let's go over this events, because I think we all agree that the events like Ghost Hollow and the heist on Korea are better events in many cases than the events, the big events themselves. So like, what makes them better or different, if not better? Selene, I'll start with you on this one.
Well, it comes back to the not repeating the player drive.
It's because it's not like just like a stack over and over and over again, just constantly refreshes itself. Anything else?
NPCs, if I'm right about the Korea one, and when that sort of starts, NPCs aren't just already on the floor; they come out of elevators, which seems to be a little easier for CIG to handle than pre-existing ones wandering around. Yeah. Like, let's look at the PU right now with the NPCs crashing through the floor.
Yeah,
that is because streaming in issues.
Okay.
So if it's something that's triggered and it involves on-foot NPCs and they come out of elevators, they could be smoother to handle. Just fake guessing.
Okay. What you're saying is that it's just like the experience is better because it feels better in terms of like fighting the NPCs in, say, Korea than it is than it is in, say, Siege.
You're not trying to snipe a vanishing head.
Okay.
Phasing through the floor.
That same vanishing head that you need to actually move on to the next phase of the event, no less. Yeah. With you.
Nightcob, what do you think? Why do you think these sort of mini events are better than the bigger kind of set piece events?
I think it really boils down to the fact that kind of what we talked about already. They're more dynamic, and because they're more dynamic, they feel. It's one thing when you say, "Hey, how long is Siege going on?" Oh, it's 24 hours. Oh, perfect. I've got all night to do that and all day tomorrow. But it's one of those things like there's such a big event that you've got to do a lot of prep for it. And even when you're doing all that prep for it, and don't get me wrong, I know it's one of the major game loops of the game intended. So there's something to be said for that. Ooh, money for nothing contract is active. This is a relatively fresh server. Is there a chance that I can get there? Perhaps get a struggling team if I'm quicker about my preparation and stuff like that, and take it from them and then make a little bit of money before the server kind of galvanizes or a more organized team comes around. Similarly, whenever I see the Korea thing pop and I'm in the Crusader area, it's kind of like, ooh, is it and not only that, but it's not a given what you're going to. Like when I see the Korea thing pop, I'm like, or Ghost Hollow for that matter, it's like I don't know what the level of preparation that the team that's already there has got. So it's a guessing game, and it's an exciting experience when you first come down to the planet. You might come down, you might find it's like this is one guy with his ship parked outside. He killed a few NPCs after he took down the comm array, and he's easy pickings for your team of 3 that just happen to be running by. Or if it's Korea, again, maybe it's somebody that had a crime stat 3 and was really not a fan of the idea of prison and said, "I'll take a shot at it." That was me one time.
Jim Post
And
also brought up another thing. When we had the Ninetales blockade, people would be like, "Oh, that's going to happen today. Let me sit at one of these medical places for the next 3 hours and fill up this Hercules or this caterpillar or this Carrick."
Totally true. Yeah. Or it is the opportunity cheese. This is another thing too, by the way. I don't know if people knew this about Jumptown. I probably shouldn't tell everybody, but right. So when Jumptown goes online, Maze goes up in price by about 30,000.
Yep.
For what it sells for. So you don't have to. It doesn't have to be Jumptown Maze. It's any maze. So if you find like those same ERT VHRT bounties with like 64 SUs of maze, well, now you can actually turn them in instead of at an NQA legally for even more money than you would have made at an NQA. Huh. And you can make some good money doing that. And it's way less dangerous as a result. But anyway, it's stuff like that. But you're right. It all goes into the same thing. It's like you can kind of, in a way, because they're so pre-planned, they're so bespoke, you can take advantage of those same events. Whereas, something that just pops off dynamically, it's harder to take advantage of that event. It's more engaging and interactive right in the immediate. I think that's why they're popular. And that's why I would like them more if they went down that road. Mm-hmm. As opposed to what they originally had planned for dynamic. That Tony Z presentation, you can tell where they were going. They wanted like the idea of, hey, server, economy and what's going on with the AI in terms of what the PVE quotient the quanta quotient is doing in terms of like a rich ore deposit, increased security, increased pirate presence, all the knock-on effects like that. This would create dynamism in the terms of the environment, but we're so far away from that. They just created these bespoke events to test out how it would go. And now I think they're starting to find with these, thanks to Elliot's team, largely, I'll give him a little bit of credit here. They're finding out these little mini dynamic events. Maybe that's the route we should have probably stuck to for the vast majority. I don't know if that's what they're thinking, but
I agree. I mean, I will give Elliot shit for making Siege of Orison in the first place, but I also will give Elliot credit for making things like Ghost Hollow and him and his team making the Ghost Hollow and the like basically and the Security Point Korea mission, which they've even evolved even further to being its own. You can just heist. You can just, as long as you have the code.
Yeah, data heist.
Yeah,
data heist and consignment retrievals.
Yeah,
those are almost like little mini events of their own now. They're not as fleshed out, And honestly, there's a lot of problems with Ghost Hollow too. Like Ghost Hollow, the money reward right now is honestly not worth the like time investment to hold it. It is almost
Yeah, no.
only worthwhile in that scenario of you got on a fresh server and maybe you're that lone guy that just got lucky after taking down the comm array and you've got a little bit of time to make some money by yourself, but it's kind of a boring event for you, until somebody comes along to take it from you, and odds are good you're not going to succeed in that regard until you can get some, unless you get some friends. I'm not saying it can't be eventful, but if you're the team that's locked it down and you've made an example of that, after you've taken down like 2 or 3 incomers, odds are good, words out on the server, you ain't getting any more competition. You'll just sit there holding it for hours with too many people and not enough money to share between them and not enough to do between all those people. So
Yeah.
I think the other big draw would be like in those instances, can you give me more AI to fight?
Yeah.
In between the PvP aspect of it. Security Post Korea does that. The AI continuously spawns, and then every once in a while you get a player ready to take you down. The problem is, you get a Cuddy Black that's arguably ineffective at best that shows up just once every blue moon while you're doing Ghost Hollow. And as fun as it is shooting it down in the 10-minute spawns, it's unless you're getting players coming after you there, it's not typically all that interesting.
Yeah. I will say that there is definitely some struggles because like even these kind of mini events still suffer from the same problems that major events do. Because they would be so much better if they were instanced. These mini events, so you can actually like put them in their own server and or had better performance for various NPCs or other things like that. Because like as a experienced outpost enjoyer, someone who goes through and looks for very rare, very worthless artifacts in loot tables. I've experienced that Cutlass Black reinforcements so many times that I know that they're never going to get out of their seats when they land, if they do land, and they're not really a threat. It's just more of a this Cutlass Black could attack and hurt our ships, so destroy it before it shows up. So like there's definitely still some problems there that could be improved, but I would say overall it feels more like, I like what N1ghtCOB, how you put it, but it feels like there's an anxiety of choice. You show up and it's like that's and I've seen it before, like the break-in at Korea. I've seen the break-in at Korea missions in the past and been like, I could take them down. I could go in there and take them down. They probably aren't prepared for me. They're going to sit in there. I'm going to sneak inside and I'll just throw a grenade down and get that quick, easy money right away. So, and that's fun. It's engaging. So,
yeah.
All right. So we kind of got into more of the positive aspects. Is there anything that's positive from the events which CIG could learn from and grow? Like and think about more of this in terms of like the future of events. Like what would you like to see for these big set piece events? What would you like to see in the in 4.0 or beyond? N1ghtCOB, we'll start with you.
We didn't talk about them, but I'll tell you what I really like in terms of an in-game event as well. And I want to say, I think they do this event better than any other event. Or events, because there's 2 of them. The in-game expos.
Yeah.
I know we don't really talk about those so much in terms of like the dynamic events, but man, I think they've nailed the feel, the atmosphere, of those events so well. I just want more to them. And I want it more to be in-game. I don't want it to be on their website. I want it to be in-game. I want them to start leaning into those. I think that's mainly driven by AI because, we've talked about it, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
They just stand there. They're mannequins on wheels. They don't talk to you.
As somebody who grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area and as an active duty Navy personnel, we could probably both understand that fleet weeks are not the way you see them. They're not just sort of static like we see it. It's nice to see the fleet and everything, but like their bars are filled. People are enjoying their time. Families are going out and visiting, like watching the flyovers. Like it's a big carnival atmosphere, and
I have to buy a spare uniform every time I do a Fleet Week.
yeah, and
'Cause I ain't coming back with all the pieces. It's
But,
like they just go. What happened to that? I lost the shoulder board. Where'd it go?
And that would be funny or fun to see in game, to see a bunch of like really drunk Navy personnel just like stumbling around the thing, like bars replaced with NPCs with just nothing but a Navy personnel in the bars, and them being drunk, even them just being drunk and slurring to one another would be more engaging. It's like, oh, this is a consequence of this event happening. It's nice. So
yeah. I would like to see. I think they do those events really well. I would like to see that more fleshed out.
There could be another side to it too. Law enforcement is protecting these events.
Yeah.
So other activities like at bunkers or something, criminals could have a heyday just running heists in the background.
That's a good point.
Security is low. Yeah.
Because all the security is focused around the event. They're not at these warehouses or other things not related to the Fleet Week.
That's true too. So it creates opportunities. I think that's probably the value of their events like Blockade Runner, that they are good at, and Jump Town, right? It does create opportunities and like knock-on opportunities.
Even though it was broken like 2 years ago, when they did IAE and there was that the audio-visual equipment shipping routes.
Yeah.
That was actually really cool.
Yeah. I think because it was so broken, they didn't want to do it again, because people like I could make millions doing this. But at the same time, it's like, that's fine. It's a one-time event. It's only going to happen once. They do it with the Red Envelope Festival. That's an entirely different type of event too. You have like the Red Envelope Festivals.
Look, there are certain ways you can take event missions and just sit in one place and still make millions. Come on.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point. I didn't think about the festival events and stuff like that, because I mean, technically those are in a similar category as like the Vandal Mask Halloween event. Oh man, talk about a broken event. If you want to get into
let's not talk about the Vandal Mask.
But it's like another event. It's like you guys are not
I'm sure
doing this right.
Karaya is not secure the prison.
Yeah.
Why was I getting it mixed up? Anyway, they're still shoveling the corpses out after people just trying to get that Vandal Mask.
Yeah. Selene, what are some positive aspects we could pull from the way that the missions are currently running, or the events are currently running? What could they do, and like where do you think they should go post 4.0?
Well, I mean, I think I've already said where I think they should go. They should transfer from being a switch at CIG into the hands of the player.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that should be in a process, but I understand that'll be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
As much shit as we give it, and I might be the only person in this group that actually really enjoys Siege. I've just been staying away from it because NPCs facing through floors. Yeah.
Well, see, I was to say, on paper, I like Siege. I like the idea of a big battlefield map where you have to go, hunt down targets and like that is engaging. It's just so broken at times.
The taking to the air.
Yeah.
Picking up ships there. If there was more opportunity for bringing in reinforcements without having to fight that elevator.
Yes.
Like they start taking down the Iffy. Cutlass Reds can start swarming platforms and taking people out.
Yeah. Oh my god, that would make it so much better. I understand, like they have
or Apollos whenever they drop.
Yeah. You're very right on that. Like it would be a huge deal if the Iffy's down for players to be able to fly to a platform that the Iffy's been taken down. I'm sure there's a balance issue that they've, it probably play tested it, and they haven't figured out how to solve that riddle yet, but I'm with you because it would improve the okay, good. I died or I had to go back. Now, right now, it's I have to go back to, Orison to heal myself,
Hmm.
because I probably inevitably within the first 10 minutes of being on platforms now, thanks to the AI improvements, have a level 1 chest injury.
Yeah.
So if I don't want to hear my character wheeze anymore, I need to go back to a hospital, assuming I don't want to. And but the recognizing that that's such a long process, like that's going to take me out of the fight for solidly a half hour
Yeah.
in its current state with shuttle rides, hobbling my way through enormous platforms. Whereas if somebody had a ship, we were talking about, I could cut that time down by a third potentially. Or if the Apollo ever comes down, and offers a tier 1 bed or something like that,
Yeah.
Off
then
topic. Off topic. If we think about the sitcom silhouette showcase,
Hmm.
I still say one of those silhouettes was an Apollo.
Maybe they're definitely it's definitely in gray box, so or white box. So we know it's in the process of being built, but I don't know. I don't know. Selene, so what
I
from
think
Siege of
Celine's
Orson?
challenging me on that one. We've had discussions on that. I don't think it's the I don't think it's the Apollo, but it's okay. It's okay. Agree to disagree.
What's what from Siege of Orson do you want to pull from, Selene?
So I've talked about it. It's the multi-theater thing.
Okay.
There's the ground battle. There's the air combat that's involved. Getting to the last platform, you have to go through a few Ninetales fighters
Hmm.
and combat ships to get your troops onto the administrator platform.
Yeah, the admin platform.
So it's the
So-
theaters of war aspect that you like it's multi-tiered. It's not just FPS. It eventually does
Yep.
breed into other aspects. Yeah, I mean,
the
arguably that's
fact
where
that-
Xenothreat excels too.
The fact that
You know.
the Hercules all have like different cars on them.
Hmm.
So you could hot drop onto the last platform in a Jeep or in a tank
Yeah.
Yeah.
or in a Spartan.
Yeah. Hmm. I will say one of the things I like about the current events is that they feel like events. Like they feel like something is happening. This is happening. I feel like because there's this, Dooley is talking to you. You're getting chatter back and forth. Like Siege of Orson is very cinematic in the sense that it's that again, that classic context of like you're ticking off the bad guys, the tenants one at a time. Then you leads to this big epic showdown with the bad guy.
I don't know if it was intentional or not, but they used to do this thing when Jumptown was running, where you would see increased UEE around every station.
Yeah.
Like you would see entire fleets flying around. And then when Jumptown was canceled, it would just peter out. And so it felt like, oh shit, there's increased security issues.
Mhm.
What is going on? If you didn't already know about the priority mission.
Yeah. And I think they've done that in the past with like other events as well. Like I feel like I've been scanned more during in Invictus than I have been in previous than normally. So
That would be another thing that should be done, like during Invictus or IAE, having more stop and scans.
yeah, oh yeah. But I'm going to be quite honest. I think the best mission, or the best event, that isn't. I think Xenothreat is the best event, but I think both Xenothreat and Jumptown, which I think is still the best kind of experience because it's so sandboxy, could use a little bit of each other. So like with Xenothreat, there should be some PvP aspects to Xenothreat to get that PvP going, either as kind of like a sideshow, like something else is going on somewhere else, or as like you could side with Xenothreat. But I think the problem with that last part is they did that with the Ninetales lockdown, and you just would get absolutely destroyed. by players. If you got that's destroyed by players, and you couldn't do them because you just have to go back. You go to jail instantly.
I never saw a Ninetales won by Ninetales.
We did it by accident one time. We were in a group of Ninetales. Yeah, we were in a group of helping, and then we accidentally hit the wrong person. So then suddenly we all got crime stats. So you're just like, all right, cool. We lost the mission, so we'll just take the Ninetales mission. And so we just switch sides in the middle of the fight.
Anakin Skywalker. I cut off Mace Windu's arm, so I guess I'm with you now, Emperor.
Yeah.
I can't go back. I can't go back.
Q-Pan does have a point, though. Q-Pan does have a point. It is easy to troll the Jav and just break the mission.
It is. There are definitely some problems with it. I think it's but I don't think that's a structural problem. That's just a bug. That's like you can fix it out. But I think as a mission, it works. And I think it really does. People have a lot of fun as a mission. But I do think that you need to have some sort of.
So what you're saying is, barring players being players.
Well, players are always going to try to break your stuff. There's ways to fix that problem with making it being invulnerable or giving it making it so you can't move it. There are things you could do to fix that problem that don't involve completely rewriting the mission. Whereas Siege of Orison requires fundamental technology to be added to make it better. And I think it also suffers from some structural problems with missions. For instance, we talked about it. With the advancement of how injuries work now, you have to spend 30 minutes flying back to get yourself fixed up unless you risk dying along the way. So there definitely needs to be some changes to it with things like, forward operating hospitals, like FOBs. A FOB just pops into existence when you capture a platform and take down the IFI.
They have the technology to have cutlasses fly in and land.
Yeah.
Ooh, do they though?
Shouldn't be. Well,
they do.
In theory, on paper. Yeah. On paper, they have the stuff.
Yeah,
but
I agree,
so imagine you're doing Siege, and all of a sudden, okay, the IFI's down, NPC Cutlass Reds start drifting into place.
They could, but the problem about the Cutlass Red is that it was tier 3 bed, and you can still get a lot of those.
Yeah.
A lot of those.
Technically, those are in
the gym.
Yeah, the gym.
So what you need is something like a tier 1 bed. So
yeah.
But yeah, that's there needs to be some sort of way, and then if you have a problem where if you reach the end of the mission and you blew up all the ships, getting to things, you hot drop and there's no ships left, no one can come pick you up. So you've beat the mission, you've killed the bad guy, you've won. And now you're just either going to go to jail or you have to kill yourself to be able to get back. And that's super frustrating after spending hours of doing those things. So when I say it's easy to screw with a javelin, that's not a fundamental mission flaw. I can't leave the area after it's finished, because of how it's designed. So,
yeah. There's some positive things. I agree with you. I totally agree with you about the part of the presentation, right? The overall cinematic aspect of the events. I would love for them to be, so going back to Korea and stuff like that, it would be really great if, the moment you hacked into Korea or something like that, it generated some, standardized lines that if you've got a high enough rep with a security force, you get a specialized message on your comm link, not just the notification of, hey, security post Korea mission is active. Mm-hmm. The counter is whenever somebody's hacking their crime stat. Instead of that, it'd be really great if it was a Rowena Dooley style notification that, hey, another lawless scumbag is hacking into the, Korea. If you're on site or in the area, we could use your help, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That means so much more. And it's such a little thing than just the contract manager notification pop in my HUD. You know what I mean? So similarly with Ghost Hollow, hell, even if it was just regular taglines too, while you're on Ghost Hollow and you're, every time you refresh a terminal, if it was just another tagline, with the local, bad guy crime syndicate armor face, being like, oh, going for more, huh? Well, it's been a while now that you've been holding it and stuff like that. If you think you've got what it takes to hold the terminal still, good on you or whatever. I don't know. I'm just making shit up. That's not my job. That's y'all's job, CIG.
Right.
But something like that would bring a world of worth to those small dynamic events, to ground us in them a little bit more, instead of just contract manager games.
No, I know CIG does want that. I've talked with enough CIG developers to know that, like, I'm sure if Elliot is still in chat, he would be like, yes, I would love to have fully voiced dialogue for every mission I do so that people know exactly what's going on and have that experience. I know the writers would like that. It's just, it's a resource thing. I get it. But I also think that if you're going to take the time to make an event or to even make these miniature events, I think taking those parts that really ground you in the universe out of those events and putting them into mini events would make them so much more impressive than they are currently. And I think that's one of those things that really shines through with the current events is you feel like you're in an event actually doing something in the universe. Yeah, Rowena Dooley will shout in your ear about everything. And, we get it, Dooley. We're trying, okay? We're fighting a buggy game. Can you please stop shouting at me through your comms?
Dooley, shut up. The elevators are broken and Crusader is not doing anything about it, please.
Yeah.
Exactly. But at the same time, that's better than just a notification, like a wall of text to read. Because it just doesn't really like immerse you in that stuff. So, yeah.
We're on the good things for events. I'm trying to think of more.
Well, I will say, I was going to say that the part of the whole thing is as well as like with Jumptown could use NPCs. Like it's technically,
yes, it could.
It could. It's technically owned by probably the Ninetales because it's a drug lab. So you just have it so that if players come down and take over, they have to come down and they have to kill the NPCs who control it, and then you can take it over. But then they'll show up and with reinforcements and try to take it back from you, or
yes,
those
absolutely.
Sorts of things. Because that would like actually inject more conflict, so people wouldn't just sit there going, "Yep, gotta move these boxes and just wait for everything to go." There's still tension that, of course, you've got people might be coming, but every ship now is tense because it's just like there's going to be a ship coming. There's going to be a ship coming because we know that they're going to come back for it.
How crazy would it be too if that had honestly, if they could run a series of escalation, and I know that's more complex, but I mean you can spawn a bounty. They have a bounty pool.
Yeah,
they can spawn bounties given a given trigger for somebody taking an ERT contract. But man, what an interesting moment it would be is if you're on the ground at Jumptown and all of a sudden, a hammerhead or a redeemer, even NPC is overhead. Like what they just got way more interesting, for at least a few minutes. And if players happen to be there too, now there's just one more target in the air.
Now it's just chaos because it's players and NPCs and you all shooting at each other. No one knows whose side which is on. They're just they're making decisions, and that's where Jumptown is its best, is when everything is chaotic, because it adds the adrenaline and forces you to make decisions which might be bad decisions. So,
yep.
You were gonna say something else, Selene?
I might have, but I think I lost it.
Okay. I will say, let's kind of wrap this up in general. Like in terms of, do you think events have a place in the game going forward? Selene, I'll start with you.
Yes, absolutely. Because it will bring together a group of players. And if this is going to be more than just single person flying a spaceship, we're going to want things that'll bring people together.
NightCOB?
I totally agree with Selene. the thing I get, Selene does Elite Dangerous. I do not, but I watch. And the thing I continuously get jealous about is, in a lot of ways, how Elite does events, and their events are meant to ground you in the world of the lore around the universe and stuff like that. So I think there's definitely a place for it, and there's definitely, I can see what they're trying to shoot for on the larger scale, but I think what they're finding now, and hopefully the way that they go, is there's room for that too in these minor events, and probably more room for it in the short term while they plug in more services to Quanta or the economy or whatever they need for that to start building those larger events and the lore surrounding them.
Yeah.
Um, so whatever that vehicle is that feels like a long ways off, right now they have an opportunity to do that with these minor events that are not nearly as taxing on the system, that would require just a few minor tweaks, a little bit more presentation, and they already, like Selene said, generate reasons to group up. Like Ghost Hollow is a reason to group up. Trying to clear a crime stat or take down somebody, clearing the crime stat, if it's a group of people and not just some lone soul, who shot a guard in a bunker, who's decided to roll the dice, that is something that you'd probably be like, ooh, can I get a gunner for my Scorpius, before I roll in there, lone man, or hey, any of my friends, any of my org on the server, anybody in the Crusader area, because I can use an extra gun hand or something like that. Like, I think it shouldn't be underestimated how quickly you can pull a group together with something dynamic, even if it's small. So I think there's definitely a place for both, and I would hope they'd start investing in the smaller events now before we
And
start
I think
keeps. Go ahead.
sorry,
Sorry. No, go ahead.
with the topic of Elite being brought up, I think that leads into Pyro a little bit. Hear me out. There's the different gangs, and they're going to be vying for control over different stations. So it's going to be a fantastic opportunity for players to sort of trigger these wars for control. Like Elite, if you do enough missions for one faction, you could push them into a sort of civil war with another faction for control of another asset within a system. And if you're doing this with a bunch of friends, then you want to push this faction into a higher standing, gain more control.
Are you talking about like us usurping Xenothreat's control through a series of events,
or like
in Pyro,
or if
kicking
enough
out a
people
group
back
in an outpost,
Yeah.
I'm down with what you're talking about, and I think that would be really cool if our events could have effects on the universe and how it feels. Which NPCs you see at a given station or an outpost, and you're like, oh man, they're in control now. That totally screws me. I'd really worked. This is like my whole base, and those are the people that I did not build rep with. I built rep with the people that lost. I would love that. I would love that too. I think that would be a huge.
But also that brings into play the kind of people that really manipulate and work the background sim Elite. And some of those people they're just crazy. I don't understand how they keep all of that information together, and they just manipulate systems to perform exactly what they want to do.
And I think that's fine in Star Citizen, because there's enough of us who are also chaos gremlins who will take their systems and just like throw a grenade in the middle of it and be like,
this is true.
You thought, you thought
that the Redeemer was going to win Best in Show. Not until I created an Argo MPUV campaign. Take that, CIG. How does it have that grenade?
But and there's plenty of people who will just want to watch the world burn. They'll see something, and I've seen that in Elite too, where like one group you can see them pushing to have that system flip, and then people will just be like, no, boom.
I may or may not have started a over 1,000 person strong multi-regional event that entirely crushed one faction within Elite.
I mean,
I may or may not have done that.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, and the thing is that I think the differences between, say, Star
cool
Citizen
thing.
and Elite, and even Eve. Someone brought up Eve because that's another kind of thing, another game that really does have that sort of like manipulate the background, try to figure out with players. Is that Star Citizen has at its core this hopefully idea of CIG being able to say, I see what you're doing. I'm going to throw a wrench in your plans and change the system as they desire. If they want to see like, oh no, we don't want the fire rats to take over Ruin Station, so we're going to start throwing our backing.
We haven't built that. We don't have that system in place. We're going to have to stop you now.
Yes, but it, like the system is the background simulation does exist, and they do have those abilities to spawn those in, but they could still screw those systems up. Like they don't have to. There's another player in the game rather than, because like with Frontier they set it and forget it. Sometimes they'll get involved into it, but generally speaking, they're kind of passive in the background. And same with CCP. CCP generally doesn't get involved in that sort of thing, but CIG has actively said they want to get involved. They want to be an actor in players' actions in game, which is the whole point of the quantum system. So, but yeah, I like those ideas. All right, I think we're going to wrap this up with this discussion, and then we'll move on to the question and answers. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you'll hear us transition directly into it. But for those of you watching us live, give us a few minutes to use the restroom, do those sorts of things. Make sure you check out N1ghtCOB here, as well as on Armchairs, Generals, and Admirals, and Bench Baby on his own stream, and every Discord that has a Star Citizen.
Paul, Admirals and Generals. Man, you can't even get my the line. It's damn it.
Admirals.
Do you know what that's going to do to a Tirakel's ego that you said Generals and Admirals?
Admirals. Oh,
dude, I'm gonna have to bust him back down all over again. You're killing me. I had him just where I wanted him.
Oh,
sorry. Please, no, advertise Selene. That was my bad.
I was gonna make the joke that you can also find you on every single Star Citizen server. Totally not stalking people.
Dude, we've talked about that, Paul. I don't have that kind of time. 5 or 6, man. I got work. I got a real job.
And of course, you can check out Selene, who just loves space games and science fiction in general, at twitch.tv/Selene Stardragon. If you're interested in seeing high-level gameplay or just gameplay for various different like space games, you mostly just do Elite and Star Citizen right now, right?
Hold up. You said high level. Excuse me?
Yes. I mean high level, like as in if you want to get high as fuck and watch Selene. It
might be dangerous for some people. I don't know, but yes, it's mostly Elite Dangerous and Star Citizen. They're my 2 favorites right now. So
yeah, highly recommend. I started following Selene when I caught a clip of Selene emptying a submachine gun's full magazine into a space pirate at point blank range, and then delivering the most emphatic and profound "fuck you" to that space pirate. Like, I was like, damn, I'm 17 years in the Navy and I can't say "fuck you" that well. And it was just so perfect. I was like, oh man, I gotta keep watching this one. Yeah, recommend that. That's high level content.
And of course, if you've been enjoying this so far, if you're watching this after the fact, make sure you follow the Twitch stream, twitch.tv/TheAstroPub. Subscribe to us on YouTube, twitch.tv or youtube.com/TheAstroPubLive. And of course, like the video if you like it, and comment down below your own thoughts on missions, flaws, goods. Maybe you're in one of those emphatic defenders that like, oh, CIG's missions are perfect. There's nothing wrong with them. I want to hear those thoughts. And the rest of you in chat live, give us a few minutes to use the restroom, but like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.
He was sleeping peacefully behind me a second ago.
Yeah, I was going to say earlier, like the reason why I cut out the interesting bits in the middle is because if I do, then it makes the podcast listeners actually show up to the Twitch stream and watch.
Oh, fair, yeah,
yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah. Are we into the portion that's going to be on the podcast? So they're going to miss the really interesting discussion that we just had.
Yes, the very intriguing discussion that I'm not going to mention again because you should have watched it live.
Yep.
You know.
No. Yep. Sorry,
all right.
guys.
So this is the question and answer section. I'm taking questions from the chat. We've got so far 12 questions. So we might actually get done before, in like an hour instead of 9 p.m. my time. So we'll start with Iris Dreadtide, who asks, speaking of events, who is everyone voting for next year for Imperial Senate? Also, why is everyone going to vote for Strong, Senator Strong, the son of Stanton? Okay, I don't know if you heard. Yes, you were here. You know about Senator Strong, N1ghtCOB. I know you listened to me enough times to know who Senator Strong is.
I'm sorry, who?
Don't give me that. Don't give me that. Don't give me that.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, I know. Of course, I know who Senator Strong is. He's my role model in terms of workout plan. Just honestly, I often ask myself, what kind of adult do I want to be when I eventually get out of the Navy? And your character is my immediate go-to. That's the kind of adult.
A guy who sells, who's obsessed with trying to put explosive material into plushies, who punches his way through all problems and is slavishly devoted to the military industrial complex.
I think what your intent was by describing it that way to get me to realize the error of my ways, but unfortunately, it had the opposite effect. That's exactly.
Is he related to the Messers?
No, he's the son. So I'll do a very brief. So when Siege of Orison first started, we kind of accidentally created a character based off of Senator Armstrong from Render Gear Solid Rising Revengeance Rising, one of those two. And I've just run with it. So we've created a whole backstory. He's going to be the first senator from Stanton. Stanton doesn't have imperial recognition from the Senate. So he's running to try to promote, to try to get Stanton to get representation. And he is basically Senator Armstrong from that game, minus the epic memes and the way he promotes himself.
No nanomachines?
Well, the way he promotes himself.
I'll be right back, Paul. I'm sorry.
All right. The way he promotes himself.
Memes are the DNA of the soul.
The way he promotes himself is he fist fights his way through Ninetales. So I just spent all of last night, mostly just in a suit, punching Ninetales to death. And then when we reached the last stage, I stripped so that there was no top and just pants, and ran around screaming, "Where are you, you coward, Mendo Ren? Come out and fight, you coward!" With a sucking chest wound. It's tier 1 chest wound and a tier 1 head wound. So
I was lurking through a lot of that. I didn't know about that last part. That is amazing.
Yeah, it was fun. It's always fun, just screaming at the top of your lungs, running forward. At one point, people were legitimately like, "Paul, don't run forward." And I'm like, "No, watch me." And I actually managed to flank as they were distracting them and beat down 2 Ninetales that were pinning everyone else down. Just like, yeah,
nice.
That's the advantage of violent. Close quarters combat.
Without armor, you're fast.
Yeah,
you're really fast.
You're really fast without armor. I was outrunning everyone, and I can at this point almost completely flank a Ninetales who saw me and started shooting, and take them down before they realized I was there. So yeah, it's fun. So there may or may not be more future videos of Senator Strong running for Imperial Senate next year. So keep that in mind to those dear viewers. Okay, this is another Captain Stable meme. Boreal Stalker face punching dynamic when? Dynamic event when? I would love to have CIG have an event which just involves fist fighting random animals to survive, but I don't think that's ever going to happen.
I mean, you could do it whenever they put the stalker in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to.
I'm not saying it'll go well, but
yeah.
Speaking of face punching, why not have bar fights?
Yeah, it should.
Why not let us have just if they could do it with just the bar area?
Mm-hmm.
Let a bar fight break out.
They've talked about doing
funny.
that. They've been talking about wanting to do that with the kind of mini events that they've wanted to do in the past. It's just bar fights. It's something that was in the community very early on in the in development. People talked about it. Like, can we just have bar fights? Can we just start punching people? And that's one of the reasons why we have melee in game.
Oh, we're talking about something I might be a subject matter expert on. Bar fights. Where would we start with this one?
The question was more, Selene was just more like, we should have bar fights as a dynamic event. Just break out in the middle of
I'm so down.
Yeah.
I'm so down.
Yeah. All right. So this.
I'm sorry. I thought I could bring more to that discussion, but I guess I can't.
That was basically it. That was the statement.
Fair enough.
Akuma Tenshi Kuro. I think this is more around your for you, N1ghtCOB, but asks, recently saw a video of a bunch of soldiers forming a rotating moving line to salute their XO. After each soldier salutes the XO, he runs ahead and gets back in line again. So the XO is constantly has to salute. Continuous line of enlistees along the whole walk, presumably back home. Can we get CIG to implement military NPC reactions to being saluted abundantly in Squadron 42? Laughing if they do, if they like you, angry if they don't, etc.
I mean, I like that. You guys want a good one, a good submarine tradition one that would be funny for the Idris?
Sure.
CIG, if you're listening, this is a good opportunity. You guys already know about the hot rack thing, so I'll feed you another ship/boat tradition. What commonly happens on at least one point, maybe multiple during the deployment, is the captain and the XO both have a stateroom, so they are lucky enough to have a door to said stateroom, and it is tradition to at some point steal the XO's door to his stateroom and hide it somewhere on the ship. And
how the fuck?
Well, he's not in his office all the time, because when the captain sleeps, typically the XO becomes what we call the CDO, the command and duty officer. So that means he's in charge of being up in control, making sure the officer of the deck is doing all the things, blah blah blah. So, they'll be gone for long periods of time, and, enterprising young sailors, or in this case, space Marines or whatever, will take that door and then hide it somewhere. Usually like the last place they know the XO likes to go, So if the XO is not a big fan of going back into the engine room, they'll put it in the engine room, in a bilge or something like that, I have seen some various takes on that. I one point in time on a deployment, close to a holiday, I saw the XO literally show back up to his door, to his stateroom, and it was completely covered in wrapping paper and a bow. And I was like, oh, that's a good one too. I like that. And it was very neatly done. Like, it was not one of those hastily thrown together things. I was like, that's picture perfect. Wow, they did a good job on your door there, sir. I'd almost hate to tear into that with the amount of effort that was involved. You're gonna have to probably leave it like that for at least a couple weeks. He just scowled at me. He left it for 2 or 3 days. But that's a good one. I like that one.
Yeah,
I think that kind of ties into the what we were talking about, having interactions within the first hour to sort of introduce characters in Squadron 42.
Yeah. That would be a great introduction. Is your job is to steal the XO's door. It's just That would introduce. That would be actually.
You're
CIG.
welcome, CIG.
CIG. No. Listen,
Steal the door and use it as a tutorial for the new
for
multi-tool.
stealth. Yeah, for stealth and multi-tool.
That's actually a good idea with the tractor beam.
Yeah. So like as a tradition, because they're trying to break the ice of it, they have you go steal the Exo's door, and so you have to use stealth to get past people, and then you have to use it to like deconstruct the door, and then pick it up, and you have to move it. There we go. Yeah. And this is like the guard gnomes of Star Citizen achievement ideas. I mean, it would also be funny if you could steal something from the Exo's office and have to have that on you at all times, and place it at random places, because that would also be funny. But I like the idea of stealing the door, because the sliding doors, it can use the multi-tool and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, solid ideas.
Yeah.
You're welcome. There you go. If I can, if that ends up in the game, I'm calling it, guys. That was my contribution.
Yeah.
I think it's probably too late on Squadron 40.
Maybe
part 2. Maybe part 2.
Yeah. But I mean, that's something that you could easily see. I could see CIG putting in, because there's a lot of social aspect of the game. Like there's like social parts of the game. The game's really broken down into flight, FPS, and social. So that could easily be a social mission. Like it's something you do in social to kind of change your relationships between various people. It's just kind of like a nice little side, hey kind of thing. So, all right. Next question is from Chimpasta, who asks, what is N1ghtCOB's favorite ship in Star Citizen?
Why are we just asking me?
Oh.
Well, you two have to answer now too. So I'm not alone. God. That's like a tough question, honestly. Like like favorite in the moment right now, I've been really falling in love with the Hawk. Okay. But I would say consistently like the Scorpius. Like I just love that ship so much. It satisfies so many childhood sci-fi dreams at the same time. I always wanted to be an X-Wing pilot, a Star Fury pilot. Honestly, it reminds me a little bit in some ways of a Gunstar, so it's just like, it's the perfect blend of 3 satisfied fantasies for me. I'll gun for it, pilot it, don't care. One day, though, I hope to replace it with the Perseus.
There we go.
We'll see, though.
Selene, what's your favorite ship?
What day of the week is it?
Yeah,
because
right?
it sort of rotates. I have a soft spot for Crusader. So as far as that sort of medium light cargo ship, the C1, fighters, I would have to say the Gladius. I always come back to liking the look of it. Large ships, it pains me how much it ends up broken, but I love the Carrack because it has the vehicle bay and the top bay and the turrets. So it feels like a proper large ship.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm not going to tell my favorite ship because people will get mad at me if I don't say the right
Look,
answer.
I recently picked up one of your favorite ships, so we know. I'm sorry. I'm just a fan of that paint scheme. If I could get that on everything, I would.
You don't need to apologize, Selene. Everybody knows that the Redeemer is an incredible ship, and that Paul's just, one of those outsiders that doesn't care for it. It's mainstream lovable.
It's a fun gunship. It's got some problems.
Yeah.
Not a lot of problems, though. We all know it's not a lot of problems. That's why we all like the Redeemer, and it's just Paul being weird.
Look, my favorite thing about the Redeemer is the Burt.
Oh yeah, the sheer amount of DACA that thing has is bonkers. Like,
so you guys, he appreciates it.
It's well, I appreciate a flaming garbage can when it's coming at me too, because I don't want to get hit and run over and get tetanus. Like, it's definitely a dangerous device that will kill you or hurt you if you're in the wrong direction. But all right. All right, let's move on to the next question, which is
Some poor artist for CIG is sitting here, or the guy who drew that for CIG is sitting there is like, that guy just compared my beautiful ship to a flaming trash can.
I've said many
Sorry,
times
it caught me off
before.
guard.
I have said many times before that I have no ill will towards the designers of the Redeemer. They created a fantastic ship to win a contest. And Ben Curtis is an absolute lovable man. I talked with him at CitizenCon, personally met him, got a picture with him and Sea Daddy as my circle of pain, and explained to him why I hate it. And his first reaction was to turn to Sea Daddy and say, "Why didn't you name it Paul's most favorite ship instead of just putting it as the package?" Instead of saying like, "Oh, I understand it," he just wanted to double down on the meme. And so that's how I know that CIG are all trolls, because that's what the first thing they would state they believe. So
There is something to be said for the most useful ship being Cutlass Black. Just in general.
Yeah, I mean,
true.
Just what can it do? Besides job-specific mining things, like outside of heavily specialized things, what can it do? What can't it do?
Yeah, it's one of the most popular ships in the game for a reason, and it's one of those examples of perfect synergy between its lore and its design. Its lore is to be the everyman, everyone can use it, do everything ship, and it's designed to do that, which is great. But it has all the problems of being an everyman ship, is that it can't do anything really good. So
yeah, like the tractor beam does not have a good view of the bay.
no, yeah.
Hey, Deemer Waifu win, by the way, Paul.
I have to find something very
why do you keep
specific.
signing me like that?
I will make the outfit if someone gets me a skinned 3D model of a Redeemer. I will make the outfit for myself.
Don't do it. Don't. Darj may be listening. He has that. He has that somewhere. I guarantee you.
I'll
he has
do it.
Those of
I'll
you with the
fucking do
talent,
it.
please make that happen.
Just give me the model and let me be able to break it apart a little bit. I'll do
There
it.
you go.
All right.
I'll buy
moving on
tickets
from
for that show. So will Paul, because he likes the Redeemer.
Next question.
Paul, all right, Paul, we know you're... No. Real quick, Paul. Paul, I do want to know. If the Redeemer's your favorite ship, what's your second favorite ship?
The Corsair.
Oh, that's a good pick. That's a good pick. I've been loving the Corsair
Very
a lot lately, too. Yeah.
The Corsair is the Cutlass of large ships. It just does everything good. You just nothing it can't do.
I would argue it would be a Connie Andromeda there, but the Corsair has a better interior right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also a Drake simp, so I love all things Drake. So
Valid.
You can be both a Drake simp and a Jake simp too. It's okay, man.
I am a Jake simp. I am definitely a Jake simp.
It's all right. Nobody's judging.
Hi, Jake. All right. So the next question comes from Nova, who asks, how would you design a Siege of Orison type mission to be more flexible so it can be applied to other situations? It's a good question because it kind of ties into the things we've talked about in the past.
Okay, there is
Go ahead, Selene. Since it's your favorite.
something I sort of I found on accident when I was deciding whether or not I would get a Redeemer, and I was trying some other ships from IAE. I would just hard fly through the buildings at Microtech.
Mhm.
And I found this area where I think it was some leftover of something. I don't know the exact location, but all of a sudden there was this random comm. Oh, you sure know how to make an entrance. You want to help me deal with these assholes? I looked to find where that came from. It just came out of nowhere.
I was watching
there
that
was
stream. I know what you're talking about. I was curious about that too.
There was another point where it was like, oh, hey, you're finally here. You want to help me ventilate these bastards? And I'm just like, who the fuck is talking to me? Where? I will help. Tell me more.
So I think what you're implying is like, I think like major cities, like, if it could be branded to other cities, if it wasn't so bespoke to Orison, man, I would love it if that was like turned into the worker uprising on Hurston.
Yeah.
Like if it was something along the lines of instead of the Ninetales, it's God, how awful would it be? But it's so cool at the same time. If it was like the workers uniting, they'd
Yeah.
stockpiled guns in a they live style scenario, to take down the the media machine and an authoritarian government. Like I would love that. And you could either join them or God, if you could play on the other side as Hurston too, how evil would that be?
Yeah.
Deliciously so. Anyway, I think that would be the ideal way to go with those. And I don't know if ArcCorp or Microtech could have a similar thing. I mean, it'd be cool if they could. I don't know what you're the lore guy. What would be the Microtech version? Like all the Google style employees just decided they don't get enough of a break, and they just decided to take up arms against the Apple like conglomerate that is Micro. I don't know. I'm down for it regardless.
We were actually talking about it earlier. Hear me out. Microtech has the Tobin Expo Hall. And we were talking about, security is mostly at the expo. So all of a sudden, you pick up a random comm that a building is being broken into.
Yeah.
And you land on the roof and fight your way through to stop them from stealing some prototype.
That would be cool.
Yeah,
that would definitely. And ArcCorp, I guess, has the background for that too, because they've got the quantum drive prototypes, probably
quantum drive prototypes. They have fusion engines. They've got everything. There's so many companies that are headquarters. In
at Lorville, I would be helping the bad guys steal the prototypes, but
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I think the answer. I think we both kind of stumbled upon. We've all kind of stumbled upon the same thing, which is, I think if you took something like using Elite as an example, two sides reaching a point where they go to war with one another, you just have two sides which you can participate in one or the other, and you have a kind of a series of objectives based off of a location where they're going to fight each other. It's pretty easy. Or one side becoming like a Die Hard situation, like Selene talked about, like where they've taken over this building to steal these plans, and so you have to fight your way through.
Yeah. And then you can find out that they're not really there for the plans, but they're there for bearer bonds, and they're actually just petty thieves. I'm down.
Yeah.
they're trying to break into the base code of the Moby. They're going to affect everyone, criminal and legal alike. Yeah. We need your help to stop them.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I'm down.
That
and bar fights.
Yes. Yes, bar fights.
Bar fights.
That's the Siege of Orison type mission right there. Bar fights. Just bar fighting around
that's a Senator Armstrong style mission right there. Bar fights.
You're talking about Area 18. G-Lock is right there. It could spill into the street and go into this whole rampage around.
And we are getting those like not less than lethal like takedowns and less than lethal like weaponry.
Yep. Can't wait.
So you have a random riot that broke out, and you have to go in and like grab people and throw them in. Yeah.
Have to help set up barricades to keep it corralled, or join the
riot. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. What riot?
And you can do the same. And you could do the same thing with Lorville. That's there you go. CIG. There's for you a protest / riot event where you have more of a social back and forth rather than just shoot each other, and no guns. So you have to like rely on people punching each other and those sorts of things. So.
Oh, can't wait, man. You guys got to make these. You've got to make the AI start talking. That's step one. Step two is I'm rocking out of my Lorville hab and there's a riot in progress and security is getting got their shields out and punching around. Even if I'm not involved, holy shit, am I in the lore of the Lorville universe? Like, God, we need it so bad.
Yeah. Just landing in the middle of a fist fight between Crusader security and protesters in your hangar. Like you land and then they're just going to town on each other, being like, "What the hell is happening?"
I'm down.
So, all right. Next question comes from Steve the Dancer, who asks, "What do you think if there were 3 items, if they were sold separately, it would be 20 to 30K. But if you put them together and sold together, it would be 1 to 3 million. Kind of like a scavenger hunt.
You're talking about the treasure. Yeah, you're talking about the treasure hunt event where it's like, on their own, they're not worth that much, but you get them together and it's like, oh man, now, so now it's like the competitive, Indiana Jones kind of thing, the diary's not worth that much, but it's a piece on the, puzzle to finding the grail. And then you need the map and yeah, I'm with you. Yeah. That'd be cool. That'd be a cool event.
Selene, what do you think?
I mean, there could also be taking over convoys.
What do you mean?
Just like stop supplies from going to one place and take it to another for extra payout.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Steve then asked a very similar question afterwards. Jock asks, anecdotally, I've seen a lot of people post sitcom engineering talk and IEE melt some of their large and capital ships to something more manageable. Have you seen this trend, and do you think it will continue? I'll start with you on this one, Selene, since I know you're kind of a big ship sort of fan. Do you think we're going to see a lot of people start melting their larger ships out of fear of like the requirements it's going to take to kind of actually function on those ships?
I think so. There are going to be people that, I just want to fly alone. Oh, I won't be able to fly alone, so what am I going to do with the ship? And just melt and do something else. And then CIG will drop, you can hire NPCs. Mm-hmm. And they'll be like, well, shit. I think it's going to be a cycle like that. Personally, it makes me excited because, like, I have a Polaris, I have a Carrack. Even the Redeemer and Hercules would have space for this. So I think it's going to be rather interesting. I do worry about the life support systems and how that's going to work. Because, like, what if I want to bring 4 Fury pilots instead of 1 Gladius pilot or 1 Saber pilot? Will I have enough oxygen for them? That's going to be my biggest concern, but I know there's going to be a lot of solo pilots who are going to go, I don't want a big ship, I'm not going to be able to handle it.
N1ghtCOB, what do you think?
God, I hope people do.
Yeah.
Yeah. The question being, do I hope that people, or sorry, maybe the question wasn't that I hope.
Do you
that
think?
People, do I think that people? Sorry, that was Freudian slip there. Yes, I hope so. God, I hope so. Because in my opinion, too many people have bought too many big ships. And I know we're all talking about AI NPCs, but man, that feels like such a long time off if it happens. But resource management is right around the corner. Hopefully, I'm gonna cross my fingers there.
Yeah. At least as of last Star Citizen Live, because they specifically said they're shooting for Q2, right? So
yeah. I want like a preponderance of so many big ships. There's not enough Star Citizen players. If we wanted to crew the amount of javelins that so many people already have right now, I don't know if there's enough Star Citizens in the verse actively to go crew the amount of javelins or Krakens or
Idrai.
What's another big one? Yeah, Idrai that are purchased right now. So it's kind of one of those things. Like, I think the idea would be pare down into those. Not only that, but it's hard to get a group like that together. Like, if we don't have AI NPCs, you are just not going to want to fly those ships, and they're going to be impossible to man, and they're going to be too much of a pain. And I think what you're going to find is the 3 to 4 person ships, or even the 5 to 6 person ships are going to be the gold standard of multi-crew events and stuff, and that's where you're going to want to hang out. And the other ones are going to be, I'm hoping it'll be just as fun to crew. And if everybody starts selling the larger ships, it'll open up more opportunities to crew those larger ships, as opposed to a lot of people just being like, oh, you're pulling your Polaris? Oh, I'll pull my Polaris too. Well, we only have, it's just me and you, man. Yeah, I know, but we'll get well, I mean, it'll be kind of fun. We won't have the turrets, man, but we'll be able to fire the torpedoes maybe by ourselves. And,
honestly,
that's the kind of gameplay we end up in a lot of
you
times.
bring that up, and it does make me kind of hope that the Polaris has to have a co-pilot to fire the torpedoes.
Mm-hmm.
Me too. I want dedicated, necessary multi-crew roles that lock out gameplay if you don't have somebody in a given seat. Sorry, that's me.
I agree.
COB mode engaged.
I agree 100%. Like I hate the fact that the Nova can be used by the driver. It shouldn't. The gun operator should be the turret operator should be the turret operator. Period. Like you shouldn't be able to use that. And I know a lot of people would say like, well, you don't want to, they're cutting out gameplay. And I think at a certain point, and I wanted to say this earlier as well with events, because I know there's a lot of people who want the events to be available because I don't have time, but it's like, suck it up. Like it's a game. Like you got to be available, and just it's going to happen when it happens. And when it comes to
not only that,
like
but it's not it's not a single player game where you can play it on your time. Like you have to accept an MMO is going to have events that are outside of the time that you can play.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Comes with the type of game that it is, I feel like.
And I think it's the same thing with ships. Ships should always be accessible in terms of operating, but never optimized if they're large with one person. Yeah. Sorry, Selene, you saying something?
It does make me worry about large exploration vessels.
Mm-hmm.
It's like out in the middle of nowhere, you and whatever crew you brought along, how is that going to work? Because you can't just run back to a station if you're on a long exploration trip, right?
Mm-hmm.
That does bring that question to mind, but that's something that can just be written down and considered more in depth at another period.
Yeah.
I'm with you though. That's because I think what you're talking about is the idea of like, let's say I go out with a group of 5 of my 6 best buddies and we're manning a carrack together, but then, they can play. Maybe I'm unavailable. I bed logged on their ship. So now they're, next time they log in, maybe they've only got a crew of 3 and they get into trouble and that carrack explodes, and stuff like that. Is my character now going to wake up in the last rest stop area that I set my regen spawn to? I got a lot of questions about how that plays out too, from a large ship perspective.
I own the carrack, but say, something happens. I'm out of internet for a day. I can't log in. What are the other people going to do when they log in?
Yeah. Great question.
Am I just going to leave them stranded out there?
These are all really, really solid questions. And that might go back to the roles discussion, like where maybe you have to assign somebody a role, a pilot role or a captain role temporarily when you're not on the, ship, so that they could technically do things while you're gone. But man, talk about like a big trust issue there. And no, I'm with you. Great questions.
Yeah, I think
I don't know the answers, but
I think some of these things have been brought up by CIG themselves as well. CIG developers about like, these are questions we still have to answer, we still have to tackle. So because they don't fully know themselves. All right, we've got 5 questions left. We've got next question comes from Akuma Tenshikuro, who asks, would y'all support dynamic missions for events? Think in preparation for IAE next week. We'll pay UEC for shipping this fuel to Tobin Center, or short fuse catering. The Invictus show floor has catering for the Invictus show floor has fallen through. We need a contract to find X, Y, and Z foodstuffs before ABC quality ABC quality with expiration no sooner than DDMM. And delivered to Area 18. So basically, like prep stuff for the IAE. Like, you're doing stuff to support IAE.
100%.
Yeah, what a great idea. Why aren't we doing that?
Right?
I mean, that is basically an evolution of the AV equipment missions, or
the fireworks. I think fireworks was a thing at one point in time for Invictus. But still, I'm with you. Like, and as long as it had its like challenges to go with it too, that would be really great. Or, one day when the AI talk, like you go to a store to pick up the food from a given place, and even if they just interact with you in like the meagerest of ways,
Yeah.
throwing out a couple wild lines related to the event. Like, God, that would just be better. And, bring some life to the universe while you execute what might be a menial chore. Maybe it gets interesting. God, I don't even need it to get interesting.
Brentworth Care Center would like your assistance in providing whatever anti-inflammatory medication.
Mhm.
It seems workers setting up for IAE have pushed themselves a little too hard and are having strain issues.
Yeah.
We
No,
would
that's
like
a
you to
That
deliver
sounds like a Hurston one.
so many SCU of medical supplies.
We need
Yeah.
stims.
I mean, I think those are like fantastic ideas, but it also reminds me of like Elite. When I remember last time I played, when I was playing Elite, there was a build station event, community event, where you had to go build the station. You had to take a bunch of supplies. You needed this number of supplies for this number of this number of this. And you need to take it to that location so they could build a new station to replace an older station or a damaged station or destroyed station in a region. And so I could also see that as well, just like a blank. We need these many things, so go buy these resources and come up, bring them over, and we'll pay you money for them, sort of stuff. Kind of like what they do with Xenothreat, where you need those certain number of each of those materials to be able to complete it. So I can see something like that. Yeah, I like that idea.
There's currently an event in Elite where a certain counselor is requesting deliveries of certain materials to prove that the military is capable of handling anti-Xeno defense.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for reaching certain tiers, there's going to be discounts on certain brands of ships.
There we go.
I see. Now that would be cool if we could turn that into a rep or equipment gating system as well.
Yeah.
Limited. That would have been more valuable, in my opinion, to do something like that to earn a. I don't want to use the Vandal mask, but let's go with something similar but less, festive.
Like a jacket.
Don't remind me of getting the Federal Corvette. I don't want to go back. I don't want to do it again. No.
But I would have loved that though. Like if you reputation gated a rare piece of gear behind doing something dynamic like that had an impact on an in-game, even if it was fantasy, a supposed impact on an in-game event like an IAE or an Invictus, man, that would be just freaking cool. I would be down with that. I would do that too. I'd be way more interested than just bunker looting for bear helmets.
I can't tell you how many times I played Xenothreat just so I could get the CDF armor.
Yes. Yes. Why is that still the only time that? And God, yeah, I'm with you.
We have the security rep. Why not give us a special shop that we could buy Hurston Elite armor if we grind that much there?
No, yeah, we're getting into the rep and mission rewards and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I would love it if they tied these things more to events. If you want to make events more enjoyable, that is definitely one way to go.
Yeah, you
guys had it right with Xenothreat, and then you walked away from it. I don't know why. Nobody does.
All right, so we've got 4 more questions. J-Bear Life asks, why was the Avenger used as UEE's carrier fighter, despite being so big and with cargo and living space? Did the design change, or is the lore out of date? The version that we have in game now is not the same Avenger that was used in the military. It's heavily implied that the Avenger was a 2-seater rather than a single-seater. And we don't know if that actually had, so which means it didn't have living space, because the 2-seater, they took the second seat out so they could add a living space to it. And we don't know why it has a cargo bay. That could have been used for something else, or it could have been added as a cargo bay as a nice little sort of dual purpose, where it could be used as a cargo bay, a cargo ship, mini cargo ship, and a fighter. Because there's a lot of examples of that in the verse. The Hawk, for instance, like that's the part where you have the seat now is actually a logistics container. It's supposed to be able to hold 1.8 SCU or some level of SCU containers you can put into that tube, so you can deliver those to places. So that was its original design for the military, and then it got swapped over to carrying cryogenically frozen people. So
what iteration of the Gladius are we on?
Like the 6th.
Okay. So, considering the potential age of the Titan,
Yeah.
the original iteration could have been less of a humpback.
Yeah.
But as it aged out of the military, that bay could have opened up just a little bit.
Yeah.
It
Definitely.
could have been more like the Mustang Beta, where it could have been just a little spot right behind.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't know exactly the lore behind it, because a lot of the lore behind it is just isn't specific for how it functions. But we do know that to get that living quarters, they had to remove the second seat because there was originally a 2-seater fighter. So I thought
the only question I have about the Avenger myself is, okay, the lore for the special paint one.
Mm-hmm. The Renegade, yeah.
The Renegade was that it was a stalker that he ripped the pods out of to make it go faster. Why is the stalker we have currently in game faster than the Titan?
Because CIG is bad at balancing. It doesn't make any sense. Why is the Nova the fastest vehicle in the game? I don't know. Why is a main battle tank faster than buggies? I don't know.
It's master modes, man. Just give it some more time, man.
Right.
Okay, so Iris asked a question, but I think we've all kind of given our own sort of answers to this. So, but I'll let you give it another answer if you want to. Iris Dreadtide asks, CIG suddenly likes you a lot and wants to implement an event of your choosing. What event will you use? Will you use this one? A lifetime opportunity on demand. It's like, what would you if you CIG said what event would you want? What event would you pitch? I'll start with you, Selene. Do you have any ideas?
So, say we have enough area to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Why not let us put on a parade? Like, they have the checkpoint system for races. So, okay, put on a bunch of players, have them bring out ground vehicles or slowly fly ships through, and they have to hit a set series of checkpoints, and they have to keep and just sort of put on a show.
I like that idea. I'm always a big fan of non-combat events. I will say my this is one I've talked about many times before, which is convoy escort, but not ship convoy. You have a vehicle. It's loaded up with supplies. There's some sort of blockade somewhere,
you want some Mad Max style shit.
Yes. I want you driving.
Where you're going.
I want you so you can't fly it in, so they have to drive it. So you have to escort an NPC truck as it's trying to break through some lines to get to say Lorville, which is currently under lockdown because of a revolutionary group that overthrow him. And you have to go through, and there's tanks that are shooting at you, and roadblocks with people firing at you, and all sorts
half
of
naked painted guys spraying their mouth with spray paint, screaming, "Witness me!" I'm with you, man. I'm down. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Definitely. Just because it's it would force people to use ground vehicles, and it would be fun. Because you'd be like, okay, so now I have an actual use for my Nova. I could just roll alongside as escorting this convoy as it goes through. So.
Oh man, I'd love to be in a
that would
Poe
be
and Nox,
so freaking cool.
Yeah, like a Poe and Nox on a bike, riding side by side with the convoy, freaking gangers and stuff like that. Doing their thing, Mad Max style. Oh, that'd be hot. I'd be down.
I mean, give us the ability to rearm a cyclone and just I'll sit in the gunner seat as someone goes tearing through.
Yeah.
Yes, I did say that, by the way, Major Star Stuff. I said half naked. I said spray paint can spraying guys. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Not just what you put. Sorry, I don't want to get Paul demonetized, but
Nightcop, do you have any ideas if you had an idea to pitch CIG like an event?
Hey, it's not a good pitch. I'll tell you what I just want.
Okay.
And it's so basic, but I was talking about being jealous of Elite. And I really want Vandal raids in the
Huh.
systems one day.
Yeah.
I'm sure this has got to be on their timetable at some point in time, but God, I want you're in a system, you're doing your business, usual mission stuff, and all of a sudden there's a Vandal raid on a colony. Like
Yeah.
that is going to be the end all be all for me for a Star Citizen dynamic event moment.
Yeah, I agree. I would say because you could easily replace that with anything, not just Vandal. You could have the Xenothreat is raiding into Stanton, so just like a random outpost in Stanton is being attacked by Xenothreat. Why not?
Yeah,
Having
yeah.
Pirate Swarm or Vandal Swarm.
Yeah,
I guess the atmosphere that I'm looking for though is that that Firefly Reavers style.
Yeah, the terrifying.
The Reavers just showed up. Like the big bad is here.
Yeah,
you know. What I mean?
I know what you're talking about. The outpost is got that air raid siren and it's blaring and you can hear it the entire time as you're trying to fight off waves of Vandal from landing on the planet and killing everything and
random thing. Random sort of along that. I hope that this is probably not going to happen, but it would be cool. The next time Xenothreat pops up, it's actually at the Pyro jump point area.
Oh yeah,
agreed.
And the Idris plows through that.
That'd be cool.
That's where it drops in.
That would be cool. All right, we got two more
questions actually now.
We got two more questions. It brings up more questions as to how they got there in the first place.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it now, and I'm like, wait a minute, some things don't make sense anymore.
Yeah. Nova asks, what is your favorite non-combat focused ship? Can't pick the Redeemer, Paul. So like just pure like what is your favorite non-military or non-fighty ship? Selene?
Well, I think currently it would be non-combat ship would be the C1.
Okay.
I just have a soft spot for that sort of size, so and the Spirit C1 is right there. Can't pick the Cuddy either.
Yeah, okay. Cobb?
So yeah, the C1. 2 and a close second.
It's a tough one for me. Obviously, like the combat ships are where I kind of stray the most. I tell you what though, I've had a lot of fun multi-crewing a mole. Just like a lot of fun doing that. When I want to feel like changing it up. So I'd probably say and I love the way that ship looks. I like the way it's designed. It's very industrial. I kind of enjoy that aspect of it. So I'd say the mole.
I'll say the Reclaimer. I like the Reclaimer. That's a good
pick too.
Just because it's got that vibe, that aliens vibe, the Nostromo vibe.
Nostromo.
And there's actually something to be said about being in like the box chucker, where you sit there and you just take the box and you throw it into the bin, like that kind of stuff, while the people are doing their stuff. And now that it's getting the hole munching aspect, it's going to have even more of that kind of big usability. So,
from what little I've seen of
structural salvage.
Yes.
There's going to be that whole
it's hole munching.
There's going to be a larger buffer to the machines too, so it can spit larger boxes.
Yeah. So it can. So now you can get more larger boxes rather than just one SCU. So. All right. The last question we have is from Shimpasta, who asks, "Do you feel that when we have persistent hangers, players will game events more?" I don't know what they're referring to. I'm guessing like not play, but mess.
I think they mean stockpiling supplies. So basically, like, hey, Invictus, assuming they did like the fireworks thing again, right?
Yeah.
An Invictus is coming up, so you stockpile fireworks so that you can, sell a bunch for extra money and make a ton of money on the event. Yes, I think players would. I'm gonna skip ahead to me. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
But I mean, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with players having the agency and the ability to anticipate a planned event,
Yeah.
right? And God, wouldn't it be neat if you could manipulate it if it was dynamic and try and create that event so that you could take advantage of it? Do we
Mhm.
not want that in game? I feel like we do.
I will add myself is that I also think that CIG can easily counter that because they don't have to
Yeah.
have fireworks every year. They can be something
Yep.
else. So
Yep.
you're
Change
rolling
the
that
direct.
dice, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Selene, what do you think? Do you think people
Well,
would game it more?
Honestly, if you want to call it gaming, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it would be a good opportunity for setup. Like right now,
Yeah.
okay, you're in a large group. You get the chance to take Jump Town, and you want to have anti-air on the ground. You want to have boots on the ground. You want to have ballistas, novas rolling around. You have to go somewhere else, load up, fly it out, go back to one of these mining outposts, load up again. Maybe have to wait for something to claim. If you have persistent hangar, you could build up a stockpile of munitions, armor, have the vehicles ready,
Mm-hmm.
and then just load up your delivery ship. And then it's like,
Oh, man.
okay, we're gonna start this now. You
Yeah.
can be already in the air delivering the troops, the vehicles and everything to the site as soon as they set it off.
That's
Yeah,
almost
good
like
point.
that's like raid gear versus like PvE. Like this is my jump down like ballista.
Yeah.
It's completely built out to be dealing with jump down sort of thing. I like that idea.
Yeah.
And you have
Yeah, I
a
do
bunch
too,
of
actually.
backup missiles that you stock up in
Yeah.
so that you can run deliveries and rearm them without having to take it somewhere else.
Yeah, like you
Would-
load up your
doesn't that go
ballista
back-
and then you have all that kind of missiles into the cargo ship as you go. So now you have like I've got this stockpile of 30 missiles that I can just reload whenever I need to. So yeah,
That goes back to though, like where this needs to go and where I hope they kill it sooner rather than later is like, when they advertise, hey, Jump Town's coming back this Thursday,
Mhm.
that doesn't reward the player that has been sitting on there like, I if I'm an Eclipse pilot and I've been stockpiling like seeker torpedoes just ready for that moment when the event kicks off so that I can call my freight elevator and my freight elevator full of size 9 torpedoes and my buddy's cargo ship or whatever to reload me out in the field comes up like, and it's like I've been waiting for this moment.
yeah,
It was coming sooner or later. I like that so much better for, again, that anxiety moment of, oh man, it's the time I prepared for this.
Mhm.
And you get to finally use it rather than I got Jump Town coming up on Friday. I need to go get all the things ready.
Mhm.
I'd rather have it as that like anxiety driven moment of like, oh, this is my moment. This is where I get to use the thing that I've been stockpiling in my hangar for months at a time. Oh man. that would
Well,
be just-
if it's player driven, then you can be preparing while other members of your org are pushing the event into activation.
also
Yeah.
true.
And then when they push it into activation, you're ready to go with your part of it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, that's a good last question. I think. So I think we flipped it by saying if it being bad to being actually good. If you because it's good. I do think that it's a good way of rewarding players who plan and prepare accordingly and or do devious little schemes to get their things right. So it's great.
Yeah.
All right, thank you too much to Selene and Nightcob for coming in. As always, make sure to check out Selene at twitch.tv/Selene Stardragon. Make sure you check out Nightcob at Tree's channel for armchair admirals and generals, or hanging out in the Star Citizen Discord or any other Star Citizen Discords, the 5 that he follows. And if you enjoyed this, might be if you enjoyed this,
8. I don't count them.
If you enjoyed this, please hit that follow button on Twitch, subscribe on YouTube, like the video if you enjoyed it, and of course I want to hear your thoughts to any of these questions and any of the topics we talked about today in the comments below for those of you who are on YouTube. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.